My name is Scott Elphinstone. I'm on the board of Progress Texas. This organization just does fantastic work. It's a voice that needs to be heard, and the people on this team do just magical work with an incredible commitment, and they squeeze a nickel pretty hard to make everything happen for the money they've got.
Thank you, Scott. Every one of those nickels is very helpful, and we'll talk a bit more about that later. But for now, it's Monday, June 16, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. As we posted our Friday podcasts, this one on Friday morning and in progress on Friday evening, there was genuine fear all across Texas about what the state of things would be come Monday morning, with Governor Greg Abbott ramping up the National Guard to counter No Kings protesters across the state. Then came the murders overnight into Saturday of Democratic Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband, and the shootings by the same assailant of Minnesota State Senator John Huffman and his wife, who thankfully have survived. Then the reports of a credible threat of violence against Texas Democrats set to speak at the Austin rally, leading to the evacuation and closing of the Capitol building itself. The tension ratcheted up right to the beginning of those rallies on Saturday. And for me, personally, being set to record just feet from those speakers on the south steps of the Texas State Capitol, I'll tell you, I was more nervous than I've ever been in such a situation after having experienced many of them, but I was also inspired by the determination all around me. Not one single word of any organizer or speaker backing out. Great attendance and peaceful displays of passionate resistance from the attendees of the events happening across the state, including Dallas and Taylor earlier on Saturday. The massive and wonderful crowd built at the Capitol, and it was on. Great speeches from a variety of speakers. See our socials for a bunch of that, and practically no violence or law enforcement friction of any kind that I observed personally anyway. As I was leaving, I saw one single guy who had been detained, and that appeared to me to be handled pretty calmly by everybody involved. The Austin American-Statesman, by late Saturday night, had reported that in Austin it was pretty much over by 10 p.m., in spite of fears that unrest might spill over after the No Kings event's conclusion at 8, I'm hearing less than 15 arrests, which, friends, is a very standard Saturday night in Austin, Texas. Texas Tribune coverage says the event in Midland saw an unsuccessful attempt by a small group of MAGA agitators to goad the crowd into a confrontation. It didn't work. Austin organizers were putting their event turnout count at about 20,000 as it was happening. The Houston Chronicle says Mayor John Whitmire has reported H-Town's No Kings turnout at about 15,000. We saw reports of about 10,000 in Dallas. Sugar Land's count about 900, not bad for a smaller event. Terry Webster, one of the Fort Bend No Kings organizers, has a great point. Those of us who took part this weekend in such a fulfilling experience should not now go back to business as usual. Terry says, quote, the founders who created our army 250 years ago didn't just fight once and then go back home. They built a movement. They sustained with this. They never gave up on the idea that this country could be governed by the people and for the people, and neither will we. You came here today and declared we don't bow to kings. We don't accept authoritarianism. We don't surrender our democracy. Our mantra is no surrender. Not now, not ever. Now let's go build the movement that wins our country back, because, say it with me, no clones, no crowns, no kings, unquote, and very nicely done. Our messaging here at Progress Texas was to show up, be loud and proud, but not break the law or act in a way that causes trouble for yourself, those around you, or law enforcement. Pretty basic, really, and we're very glad that it appears that just about everyone involved adopted that stance across Texas. You may have seen us quoted on CBS Austin on Friday night. In that coverage, it was somewhat implied that Progress Texas were part of the organizing team of the Austin rally, which we were not, but we do extend our thanks and congratulations to them for their hard work and a successful conclusion. One question I do have, with Texas coming out of this pivotal political weekend not only unscathed, but with new fire hopefully lit under a much bigger number of progressive asses across Texas, is how much Governor Abbott spent on that Texas National Guard and DPS activation that reportedly involves 7,000 soldiers and DPS officers. I haven't been able to find that number. I have prompted a couple of our favorite folks in political news to try and find out. We'll see what happens this week. But for potential reference, we do know that the Pentagon has reported a cost of $134 million for Donald Trump's unwanted and equally unnecessary activation of 4,100 National Guard members and 700 U.S. Marines in California, according to Jason Deeren at the Associated Press. Just for now, apples to apples, and I know that might not be accurate, but let's lump both activations together in simple personnel numbers. That would lead us to an estimated $195 million that Governor Greg Abbott may have spent this weekend just to try and look tough, when the Tough Guy Act is a big part of what the protest was against. I sure hope it was cheaper than that, considering that Trump spent $45 million on the saddest, loneliest military parade in world history, which was also one of the funniest fucking things I've ever seen. We should be watching for retaliation from Trump for that humiliation, by the way. Last thing I'll say about the No Kings weekend, outside of sending a great big hug to everybody across Texas who took care of business this weekend and did it right, is I think we could maybe think about doing it again. And maybe every year on June 14th. What better way to mark the occasion of the birthday of Donald Trump for the rest of his life than an annual celebration of the very American rejection of wannabe kings? All of us at Progress Texas would show up every year for sure. So with the weekend's action in the books, with the legislature hopefully over, maybe this week we can get started looking forward to the elections this November and the following November of 2026. We are inspired for significant progress in both instances. Kayla Guo at the Texas Tribune has an early rundown of Texas Democrats who are eyeballing potential statewide runs, with hopes of riding a wave of MAGA backlash into November of 26. Offices up for grabs include governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and a U.S. Senate seat. As we've seen, there's extra potential for a flip in the Senate if the ultra-toxic Ken Paxton ends up replacing John Cornyn as the Republican nominee. Potential Democratic candidates for that seat include Beto O'Rourke, Colin Allred, Joaquin Castro, and James Tallarico. San Antonio Mayor Ron Nirenberg, State Senator Nathan Johnson, and former Galveston Mayor Joe Jaworski are all possibles for Attorney General, an office that, of course, opens up as Paxton runs for Senate. State Controller Glenn Hagar is stepping down as well. As you've seen here, Democratic Austin State Rep Vicki Goodwin has declared her run for Lieutenant Governor, challenging incumbent Dan Patrick. Texas Democrats are aiming to field a strong and full slate this time, but let's be real. The challenges they face against entrenched Republican fundraising and incumbency will be uphill, to say the least. It's time to get serious about 2026 right now. And believe you me, at Progress Texas, we are getting serious. Before we wrap, something important to take part in tomorrow, Tuesday the 17th. Garrett Chase, program manager at Texas Gun Sense, has alerted us to an online seminar marking Gun Violence Awareness Month tomorrow night. Again, Tuesday, June 17th at 6 p.m. Words to Action, Honoring Survivors, Driving Change. Will feature Texas Gun Sense Rising Leaders Ambassador Milan Narayan as moderator for Jessica Wood, a survivor and mother turned advocate, Dr. Tatiana Cardenas, a Central Texas trauma surgeon on the front lines of the gun violence crisis in Texas, and Faith Mata, a youth advocate from Uvalde. See the show notes for the registration link. Our mission at Progress Texas is to counter the conservative disinformation machine, which is funded by oil and tech billionaires and religious right-wing activist groups, all while fact-based independent media outlets increasingly face threats to their funding. While access to those outlets is frequently free, as it is here at Progress Texas, it takes listener and viewer support to keep fact-based independent media going. If you've come to appreciate what we do at Progress Texas, now more than ever, we could use your support as a monthly contributor, and no amount is too small. Go to progresstexas.org/donate like Jamie Wood, Sherry Grusendorf, and Natalie King all have. We appreciate all of y'all very much. While you're at the website, hit the web store for the merch to match your progressive values. Y'all means all Revolution and our most popular Humans Against Ted Cruz t-shirts are all there. All union printed right here in Texas. Great stickers and more. All at progresstexas.org. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Monday, June 16th, 2025. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks for listening. Have a great week, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning.